Today's going to be one of those fun podcast days for me because it's completely off script and I don't have a bullet point sitting in front of me or any kind of teleprompter. It's something that's been weighing heavy on my mind, and it has to do with nitrous oxide. And I'm going to tell you a story that happened back in 1991 and now going to bring it forward to today's current events. Nitrous oxide, you're going to want to hear this.
Welcome, all of you fantastic dental podcast listeners, to the My Practice, My Business Dental Podcast Show, where we help dentists profit and thrive with excerpts from the clinical business of dentistry training here at My Practice, My Business. We'll be addressing and answering questions with current trends dentists and their teams face each and every day in their pursuit of this wonderful career we call dentistry. And now the host of our show, the clinical director and president at My Practice, My Business, Dr. Rob Thorup.
Back in 1991, 92, right in that area, pretty sure it was 91, when I moved into a new location, actually got kicked out of my old location because of political reasons. A Democrat got elected to the presidency, and so a company that just gave engineering grants kicked everybody out of the top floor and took over the whole place. And then 4 years later, a Republican got placed in there in the presidency. And lo and behold, that company went away and the building owner lost tens of thousands of dollars for several months. And I could care less. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But I had to quickly move out of the location that I was in, and I took and found a spot. An oral surgeon needed to expand, and I took over his old office and did some makeshift remodeling, and worked out great for over 30 years. I can't believe I stayed in that location forever. But when I moved into the building, I was like, well, where am I putting my my compressor, my suction? And they had a mechanical room down in the basement. I shouldn't say the basement. On the first floor, I was on the second floor. But they had this mechanical room, and I went in there and I looked at it. And grateful for my professors at University Pacific School of Dentistry at the time. And they taught me a lot about nitrous. Taught all of us a lot about nitrous. And I looked in there and I'm like, okay, where's the ventilation to the outside? And they're like, what ventilation to the outside? And I said, you've got all these suction units that are bringing the scavenged nitrous down into this room, and then it's just being pumped into this room. And this room was about, I'm going to say it's probably about 12 by 16, I'm going to guess the room was. And we had multiple dentists, GPs, an oral surgeon, an endodontic office, orthodontic office, but I don't think they used any gas. But anyway, that's I'm looking at that and I'm going, it's being pumped into the common air system. And they said to me, oh, is that a problem? I said, yeah, I think so. And I said, this needs to definitely be remodeled, and this whole room needs to be sealed. And these units, all the suction units, all the air exhausts need to be pumped out into the outside air. And I looked up the ceiling, and there was the common air intake. So all the nitrous was being gathered through airflow into the main floor HVAC system and being distributed it back out to all the people down there on the first floor. I'm like, this can't be happening, people. I said, I'm not moving in here until that's actually fixed. You guys show what it needs to be. So what was really interesting is I had oh my gosh, having a brain fart. This is why you got to have stuff in front of you, folks. But I had a technician from one of the local dental companies come in, and he actually had a gas sniffer. And he placed a gas sniffer in different areas on the... First of all, he started out on the second floor, nothing, because nitrous oxide is a heavier gas, so it falls down, right? but it can circulate, but typically it will stay low. So he did some sniff tests. He started with the actual room, and it was off the charts. And then, of course, then he closed the door, moved out into other areas of the hallway, and lo and behold, it was just concentrations were ridiculously high throughout the whole place on the first floor. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do we even need to get into the health issues here? And I said to Sal, I'm like, this is crazy. This needs to be fixed. And so they put together a proposal to fix it, and all the building tenants, and I wasn't one of them at the time, they had to all pay, pony up to pay thousands of dollars for it to be properly hooked up. And here's the sad part. There was without going into detail, I'll just say there was a company right next door to the room with a female employee who had 3 miscarriages. And then there were some other personnel a little further away that had employees that had miscarriages, not, one here, one there. And so I've gone online and I've tried to find what concentration levels cause miscarriages or any other types of problems in pregnancy. Lo and behold, I found also that there's problems with the guys with nitrous floating around in the room too. And I won't get into that because I think the women are the ones that need to be protected the most. So I was like, this is, that's just recently. And I'll tell you why I looked at it recently. But back then we knew that there were problems. But from then, over 30 years ago till now, it's still not published, obviously, because you can't do research on concentration levels and have human subjects for this type of issue. And, I looked at if there were any animal studies, and of course there weren't. And I'm going, what level of nitrous is considered dangerous? And I couldn't find any publications. And if, maybe some of you will shoot me an email, that'd be great. But suffice it to say that we fixed the problem. And that wonderful person in the office next door, all of a sudden she got pregnant and carried full term. And then she asked what was going on next door in the room. And I told her, and did she have a lawsuit that she could have filed? Absolutely. She could have rattled the chain of many, many people there in that building and the owners and everything else. And she didn't. Not saying good or bad, but bless her heart for, taking the high road. I don't know if I would have, because of course people don't know what they don't know. But why did I know that and none of the other docs knew that? That's what concerns me. So this is why I'm doing this podcast today. So I just moved into a new facility, January 20th. And I want all of you to listen to how this transpired. The dental supply company hooked everything up, and me being very cognizant of all my employees, many of them of which are in childbearing age. No amount of nitrous oxide leakage is permissible by me. So I took the tanks, I cranked them on. They're like, everything's perfect, looking good. I took the tanks, cranked them on, cranked them off. I watched the pressure. And sure enough, the pressure starts dropping. And then it's like, well, nitrous oxide's a heavy gas. It settles in the lines. You can expect a few pounds of droppage. And I looked around to see if I could find, snoop it out on Google, how many pounds of nitrous are allowed to drop. And I couldn't find anything. I find that interesting too. So I noticed that there's like 4 pounds to 5 pounds a day heading out of the line. And that was just in the pressurized lines. And I called the company that did all my installation, and I'm going to say that I don't care what company it is. I think all companies need to pay attention to this, because the company that I used to do my install, because of what they have learned from my install, they have now aggressively changed protocols, and those protocols, I thought I may have heard one of them say they're actually going nationwide. And here's why. None of these supply companies, and I mean 0 of them, now that I've found out, actually know the answer to any of these questions either. And so in the supply company that I use, there's a young man who, long story short, I mean, we bounced back and forth, trying to figure out, where's this leak coming from? And I want you to know that the company that I used slowed down, took the time to say, what's going on here? Why are we losing that many pounds in the lines? I mean, you'll lose a few, but it should stabilize, because the gas is heavier and it settles in the lines. And I said, and it just, he too, and the company stated, no amount of leakage is permissible, period. And so we've been at it for about 8 weeks, and we actually called a med gas company, and they said, I can't find it. I can't find where this is leaking from. So in combination with the med gas company and the supply company that hooked up my Nitrous system, they methodically searched. And docs, you've got to be patient too. You can't be a bunch of, a-holes trying to yell and scream at people. This is something that is like, there are gremlins, in aircraft that it takes time to find them sometimes, just so you know. Not pointing out Boeing's gremlins, that's a whole nother story, but there just are. And having been in aviation, you just have to be patient sometimes to have them manifest and poke their heads out, and then you catch them. So it's like, okay, the manager / tech, he's like, calling me every day. What's our pressure? We took and isolated every operatory and came down to Op 1. Op 1 was the one that seemed to have the issue. And lo and behold, that issue was actually in the mixer. And I'm not talking music mixer, which is sitting on my left-hand side right now. I'm talking the Oxygen Nitrous mixing device that is controlled by the electronic panel that sits right on the front of our cabinetry. And that's where it looks like it appears to be coming from. And over the weekend, the gas held, they capped it off. They finally said, it's got to be coming from here. We've never seen anything like this before. And lo and behold, they pulled it off, and over the weekend it held. I go in today. I do my podcast early Monday mornings usually, and I'm going, wow, this is crazy. Why? How would a mixer be leaking? And they have no idea either. They're thinking maybe it's some dust got in it. But here's my point. I'm sure you guys are listening to a lot of points. It was the methodical investigation into each operatory, into each room. We actually, so all the hard piping, it was isolated and held pressure. Perfect. Then we had to isolate it from the manifold. We had to check the manifold. Here's a fun one. We actually had a manifold leak. That's right. Where it goes, the manifold failed. And so I'm on my second manifold. The second manifold is holding and working fine. But again, my supply company picked up on that one. And but then there's just multiple failures. And I asked, I'm talking to the equipment rep, and I'm talking to my supply rep and the manager of the company even. And I'm like, why? It seems to me like there's a lackadaisical approach over the last few years of maintaining quality. And I know all of you out there probably screaming the same thing. Where is the quality in manufacturing? Where is the quality in some of the things that we've been receiving? I've talked about a composite company out there that's heavily advertised by the ADA, and we have caught them half filling their A1 and 2/3 filling their A2. The A3 seems to be fine. What are the two most common shades? A1 and A2. And I believe that's intentional. I don't think for a minute that's not intentional, especially after my communication with the CEO many years ago. And has it changed? No, they still play that game. Keep an eye on that, folks. So I started asking myself, why in the world are we seeing these kinds of problems? And, even after our best efforts of trying to protect our team from nitrous oxide, we can have leaks. But the question I'm going to ask all of you is, do you know if you have a leak or not? And the equipment that I had in my old office, all I had was the pressure gauges on the tanks. And then, of course, I had a high-low button on the... I didn't actually have a pressurized readout like I do in my new office. And so the only way that we could tell if there was a leak is if we shut everything down, all the system was shut down. We had porters, great system back in the day. And maybe even today, I don't know. I don't use them anymore. But here's the thing is we tested the system and we actually had an oxygen leak, but not a nitrous leak. And we could never figure out where the oxygen leak was either. So that was very interesting. It would just drain the tanks. So we'd leave the nitrous on over the weekend, and the nitrous held pressure all through the weekend. So there's ways you can test it with older systems that you have, but these newer systems, holy mackerel, you can isolate. We were able to isolate the operatories away. So you have the gas coming in to the manifold. You can check that. Then you have the manifold to a whole nother valve system. We checked that held. And then from the valve system to the operatories, that's where we had the pressure loss. So there's ways to test this. And may I suggest you test your systems? May I suggest you see if you're bleeding nitrous out? No amount of nitrous, in my opinion, is healthy for any childbearing female that is trying to get pregnant. And why would we want to increase the possibilities of our wonderful workers possibly having miscarriages? So we had a team training last week. Had 5 wonderful offices in there represented last week in our 3-day team training, and one of them was from the Midwest, and 2 female docs. And I talked to them. I was kind of mentioning to them about our nitrous, and they said, "That's exactly why we don't have nitrous in our office." And I thought to myself, brilliant. If the industry cannot prevent leakage, and if we are not actively testing our lines for leakage, then I'm going to side with them. Why are we even promoting nitrous oxide? Now, the portable units, that's a whole nother story. They're kind of ugly looking, stupid, but boy, I don't know. If I had my choice to do it again, I think I would just get 1 or 2 portable units because, I don't know, they're not leaking. You can shut them right off at the valve. They're right there in the operatory, and more of a pain in the butt. And I'm just going to throw that out there for all of you that are building out new offices or don't have nitrous in your office. Nitrous is a great tool to have. We don't, a lot of offices will put everybody on nitrous. We don't typically put everybody on nitrous. Maybe we should, but we don't. And we only use it when the patient requests it. So it's not like it's a big moneymaker for us. It's not something that our patients request or require. Of course, I like to interact with them. I like them to have a clear head, and I enjoy that communication with our patients. So, and I think they hopefully enjoy it back with me and my team. So I like, this has been a really interesting 2 months of quite an ordeal of seeing how nitrous leaks. So those two docs from the Midwest, I'm grateful for both of them. They bring out a good point. And I think that's something that all of us should consider, especially if you're building out a new place or even if you have one that's got nitrous oxide in it. This has been a lot of heartburn for me, and grateful for our supply company who has been steadfast at correcting the problem. And I got to give my hats off to Patterson Dental for being very diligent and having a couple of individuals who are as OCD as I am, and they have seen a major issue in the industry, and they are changing protocols that they have to tackle it because of what has happened in our office. And having somebody like me that doesn't just say, oh, it's hooked up. Okay, good. Let's go to town. And then having gases leak into operatories. Not a good idea, folks. And grateful that they've been patient with my standards and they have worked through it and it's been great. Now it's fixed but here's my point. I think it's going to be on a quarterly basis. I think we're still going to be testing the lines just to make sure that everything is as it should be. Test your lines. I'm going to share another one with you. I actually had a builder that was in about 6 weeks ago, and I was talking to him about our issues with the lines, and he made a comment that he actually went into a dental office in our state that literally had regulators hooked right up to the tanks and the lines coming in direct to the operatories. And I saw that. I actually saw pics of it. And I'm like, that's an accident waiting to happen. So I'm going to say, all to you docs out there listening, don't shortcut the safety of the manifolds and the alarm system. Don't try to shortcut that to save a few $1,000s. That is not worth it. For those of you who do have nitrous, especially if it's older, test your systems, please. Make sure you protect the young ladies that work for us and protect the little ones that they're trying to bring into this world. I hope this has brought a little bit of awareness to all of us, and I wanted to share that experience with all of you today. And there's a lot more things that we could be talking about. Things going on in our profession, both from an insurance-wise and law-wise. And by the way, in the state of Utah, all of you, Blue Cross Blue Shield was holding to a 90-day. You had 90 days to get your claims in. Makes it difficult for our front office team members when Blue Cross might be secondary. In the state of Utah, we got that pushed to, it's supposed to be 180 days, and somehow it got switched to 120 days because of their lobbyists. But it did get also another 120-day extension if you just tell them why, like if they're secondary. So it just makes our lives, a lot harder to do, but there's that kind of legislation. At least we did win that little battle here in the state. Tracy and I did. Our state associations working on other battles that our poor executive, he only has so much bandwidth. Anyway, there's other stuff that's coming down the tracks, and grateful for all of you who've been through our training. Keep plugging, keep pushing back. And for those of you who haven't been through our training, gosh, I hope you do come through it because it's very powerful, which all of our clients have been able to witness. I hope all of you have a great day. Thanks so much for being here. Till next time.
Thank you for being with us today. Since 2006, My Practice, My Business has been teaching dentists and their teams business skills, dental insurance contractual protocols, and state laws governing how to profitably bill patients fairly for the need-based services they provide. What's more, we guarantee our training unlike other dental consulting companies in the industry. Simply stated, if you don't increase your net revenue, we don't get paid. We call it dental consulting the way it should be. We believe there has never been a more important time than now for dentists to experience and implement our key methods, knowledge, and business training within their dental practices. To learn more about our guaranteed, no-risk clinical business of dentistry training that is changing dental practices for the better, just go to our website, mypracticemybusiness.com, and surf our pages for additional information about our company and the services we provide. When you're ready, give us a call and get scheduled for the most profitable dental business training that you will ever experience. If you enjoyed our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call us. Thank you again and have a fantastic day.